This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Always great to hear the death metal master blaster himself, Eric Rutan, doing the show promo there. The conversation, though, that you've tuned in to listen to features Sullivan from the Melbourne outfit Planet of the Eights. Now, the catalyst for the chat is the launch of the brand new EP for 2021. It'll be out later this year. It's called Lagrange Point Vol I, and I've heard the first single, Holy Fire. It is very good stuff indeed. Sullo and I were chatting about all things to do with our careers prior to launching into the conversation about what's happening with the band. So you'll hear that transition occur. Here he is, Sullo from Planet of the Eights. So from IT to gnarly slabs of stoner groove, there's quite a gulf between the two, mate. So how do you manage? Do you just switch off when you stop working?
Yeah, man. Like, that's playing music is and has always been, probably always will be, my kind of outlet from reality. You know,
yes.
We rehearse every Monday, and doesn't matter how bad the Monday-itis is. You know, we get in, we set up, we have a bit of a chat and a smoke, and then we just play. And the rest of the day just washes away, just being creative.
That's such a good idea, having your principal rehearsal, or from the sounds of things, your only rehearsal on a Monday. It just sets up the rest of the week nicely.
Yeah, it tires me out. You know, I get home at like 11:30 or something, but it's rejuvenating. Even after a weekend of gigs, we'll often still rehearse on the Monday just to kind of keep that momentum going. And it depends on what we're doing. If we're preparing for a tour or, you know, pre-production, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, so I haven't heard the EP yet, and I understand it's called Lagrange Point Vol I. Killer name, by the way. I love the ZZ Top reference there, if it is or it isn't, but I sort of took it that way. But look, Miller, who I know has kindly sent through the single Holy Fire, and I've got to say I've listened to it rather a lot. You actually made my July music show without even knowing that we would potentially have an opportunity to have a chat. So 10 points for that one there. I like it. I like what you're doing here with Holy Fire, but then I'm a massive Caius fan and Fu Manchu.
Okay.
Yeah, so, I mean, when I hear music that's an analogue of Caius, I'll give it some time. And what I mean by that, it's far more than just the stoner thing. It's that mixture of laid-back groove, heaviness, crushing heaviness, which you've got, and melody.
Yeah.
So you've got all of those things. You've got all of those things in spades. So would you say that Holy Fire is indicative of what the rest of the EP sounds like?
Elements, yeah. This what you just described with the groove and the heaviness and the melody. This is dripping in it. The whole EP, with a few surprises. So, and you know, we're fans. We're fans of Caius and Queens of the Stone Age and everything that's kind of come out of that desert scene. But I'm similar. When I hear things that are a little bit outside of what the norm is in the stoner rock scene, where, you know, there's particular melodies, or I'm attracted to particular singers as well. It gets a bit more of a listen.
Yeah, when you talk about when you mention that you're attracted to particular singers, is it in that Josh Homme vein? And I know he's Queens of the Stone Age and not Caius in terms of his singing there, but is that the sort of singing that you tend to gravitate toward? Because I didn't find your singing too reminiscent of it, actually. I think you've got your own thing going on.
I think I've stumbled onto my own thing. I am a fan of what Josh does, but I don't emulate it very well, and I don't think I'd want to. I like the fact that he's got a sound, and I like the fact that Greenleaf's got a sound, and Alder's got a sound. And, you know, Nick from Elder's not, I wouldn't consider an amazing singer. Sorry, Nick. But there's something about the quality of the voice that helps portray the song. And I think, Josh does it. You know, it does in certain bands, and I find they kind of click with me a bit more, and probably influence me a bit more.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I always found that Caius, or my opinion is Caius would never have worked unless John Garcia was fronting the band. Because a lot of people have sort of said, oh, well, you could have had Josh front it. It's like, no, his voice suits his music. John's suits Caius in that regard. And it's the formula needs to be refined, doesn't it, with this sort of music? Because there's a lot of space between notes at times.
Oh, yeah. I do like to feel things, but just because of the music we played offers up a lot of space. Caius wouldn't be Caius without John Garcia. That's absolutely true.
Killer band.
Point there.
No, you're right. I've had a chat to John, and he's just a cool guy too. Very, very different to what I thought he'd be, actually. He even made a joke of it. He goes, people sort of expect him to be tripping over beer cans and stuff when they meet him. Instead, he runs a veterinary clinic in the Joshua Tree Desert, I think, with his wife. And he's he's very much a hands-on parent, that he was telling me, to the point where he's locked down the internet from his children. Not in a weird cult leader type of way, but he's concerned about a lot of the shit that they get access to constantly. And I've got to say, I've got 2 daughters, man, and holy shit, it's a brutal...
I don't have any kids, and I feel that it's a weird and not safe place.
It's just... It's just, where it's not, where the biggest menace is with it is the addiction part of it. So I'm not even thinking that pedos and shit are trying to contact my kids or anything like that online. I think it's impossible, given the apps they're using, for that to be the case. But it's the fucking addiction, mate. Holy moly. You and I grew up with Game Boys and Game Gears, and I'm assuming, you're about my age, but
all that.
But they weren't addictive. But they weren't addictive, were they? I don't think.
Well, I used to have to spend a day programming a game out of a magazine onto a cassette tape just to play the game. So you do that once, you play it a little bit, and then you go, okay, well, it looks like a nice day outside. Let's go do something.
Yes.
Yeah, the addiction of the internet and just technology and devices. Who doesn't have a phone these days? Who doesn't have it in their pocket right now?
Mm-hmm. Or within arm's reach. I know, I was just thinking that. And I'm as guilty of it as every other adult out there is, but... And I don't necessarily believe that it's our fault as consumers either. I think the sons of bitches that write the code for this stuff in Cupertino or Silicon Valley, they know what they're doing, man. They've made that as addictive as it possibly can be.
Well, there's a whole industry in... engagement. So of course.
So
and going back to Holy Fire, I think there's some slight leaning in towards that territory of what's going on. We're in a pandemic. That aside, just the fact that information is in our face all the time, and we're being told what to do and we're being fed what to do. And Holy Fire comes across to me like it's an escape from that. It's finding a different path. And for Death by Carrot, who performs that song with us, KC, that's their life. They're out on the road right now, doing as many shows as they can while some borders are still open.
Oh, we're going back in, aren't we? Yeah, unfortunately. But they're out on the road now, are they?
Yeah, they're in. I think they're in South Australia, maybe in WA by now. So, pandemic aside, their goal is to be out on the road and bringing riffs and stories to the people all over Australia. And that's their escape from the noise and the all that we kind of throw into internet communication these days.
Yeah, nice work. Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, getting out on the road, bringing the music to the people. I've made this point so many times, it's almost redundant now on the podcast, but heavy music, like what you're doing here, it's for people like you and I playing live, it's the fire pit, isn't it? Going back to our tribal roots, if you like. It's how we reconnect with who we are spiritually. And without it, and I think this is what's happened through the pandemic. That's why I wasn't a fan of those collaboration videos.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, the collab videos and stuff. I mean, I know people have got to, these bands have got to do what they've got to do, but nothing beats live, you know, and...
we crossed that bridge when we went, well, we could look into it and do the technology, and we were fortunate that we had a bank of writing that we'd been doing, so we got to demo all that. But we just decided that, look, I don't think we can capture the vibe of our show, of our performance. And while it technically could be cool and interesting, we just weren't really into it. So we decided to not pursue that, and we demoed and recorded this album, this EP, plus, you know, there's another 4 or 5 tracks coming in the works for, you know, there's another recording coming out later in the year, hopefully.
Killer.
And then we've got album 3, so, you know, get to writing while we can, and we'll be back on the road when we can.
Well, I love that your presser states that you made a big point of using your music as a vehicle for bringing people together across the country, across borders, and the big one, across astral planes. So I like that. I like that. I like the way you framed it, you know, because, you know, in a way, we all, as dyed-in-the-wall music fans, we all do have a psychic connection with each other to a lesser or greater degree, don't we? Because you find that it dominates whole parts of our lives.
Look, we're playing, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'll probably have my eyes closed, and I can still feel a connection of the people that I'm playing with and in front of. You know, there's an energy that we create, and it's bounced back off the people that we're entertaining, because, you know, we're entertainers. I don't know another experience that's like that.
No, I don't either. I can't think of anything else that connects people the way that music does in terms of a cultural thing, something that's brought about through the use of art, if you like. Nothing is like music. It's just the thing that we all seem to have in common, and I've made this point a lot too. I've featured some bands, black and death metal bands from Saudi Arabia on the show. And my point about heavy music is, and I believe I'm right in saying this, but please feel free to add your 2 cents after I say it, but heavy music, extreme metal, including you guys, everything under that broader banner, it's the only style of music that crosses all social, political, cultural, religious and class boundaries. Because, as I say, man, there's a death and a black metal band and a stoner metal band in just about every country on the planet, if not every country on the planet.
That's absolutely true.
You know that? And Jello Biafra said that years ago.
I don't know if you get out much to see shows. You know, we're in a pandemic.
Oh, not lately. Usually, but not lately.
There's a lot of metal and all the subgenres of hard rock and heavy music in Australia. And we don't exactly have, you know, the Australian music scene isn't exactly, what's the word? It could be better, is my point. Now, a lot of the bands in Australia are metal bands. I spent my 20s in Newcastle, and there was more metal bands per capita than anything else. You know, it's blue collar steel city. You know, people like their hard rock and further. So not that surprising, but I seem to notice wherever we go in Australia, if you look up, always try and look up other local gigs, what's going on, and especially when we're trying to book stuff. There's a lot of metal and a lot of hard rock, and there's a lot of really good stoner, psych, doom at the moment. So much.
Can you name some?
Last weekend I went and saw Khan and Grey Mantis, which are more of the psych rock element of things. But, you know, a couple of weeks ago we played down at the Bendigo with Full Tone Generator and Mother Slug. You know, we've got Desert Through to Doom, and they're all great bands. And right now, they're pulling crowds because people want to go out. You know, if we can, we want to go see music. So that's cool.
Have you guys played the festival that happens in Alice Springs? I can't remember the name of it. I think it was
Blacken or something?
Blacken, that's the one. Yeah.
Blacken, yeah. No, would definitely be keen. And if I got the call tomorrow, we would probably work out how to do it. We're very much keen to do some outdoor festivals. We've been speaking to just the local bands in the scene down here about trying to find a paddock, get out of town.
Yeah.
Just set up for the weekend, get a generator, no bullshit, just music and nature.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Yeah, that's killer. Well, I was just thinking at Blackened, I mean, no other band that I'm aware of in Australia could go on just as the sun sets and the stars appear. And there's that red teal, it's, that deep red that's in the outback from the sun. And then you guys go on stage. I mean, that'd just be glorious.
New life goal.
Right there. Yeah.
Yep, right there.
Killer, yeah. What about, I'm a muso too, so I tend to get fascinated, not in a nerdy way about the gear, but especially being a bassist. I play Gallian Kruger, and I'm looking at a picture here of yourself with your arm resting on a Peavey bass head. It looks like a mammoth thing with your 8x10, so that's your go-to rig?
Yeah, Peavey Mark IV from the 80s, and I use a 610 most of the time. I think that photo we're recording, so I had access to an 810. Only because it just doesn't fit in the car with all the drums and everything else. Once I get a van, that'll be a different story. That's when the 810's coming in. But yeah, that Peavey Mark IV it's a cheap amp. Like, I think I got it in a 15-inch box for like $300-400. And it's indestructible. And it breaks up nice. Like I run pretty hot. I run a 12-13 dB boost off my board into the amp, and it just soaks it up.
Is that right? 12 or 13 decibel boost. Wow. Yeah, that's how you get the distortion. You talk about breaking up, but that's how you get that grit that you've got. Yeah,
we're a 3-piece.
Yeah.
And I've played in a few 3-pieces in my time, and you got to push the mids and you got to be gravelly, so that when the rhythm guitar drops out, you've still got something to kind of hold on to. So, yeah. My sound just is variances of that.
So you figured out what Jack Bruce understood 50 or 60 years ago, whenever it was, that more is more.
Oh yeah, we've got a sticker that says sometimes less is more, but more is always more.
Well, usually when I hear people say less is more, it's usually because they can't play this stuff, but you can play. I can hear that. So how did your sound evolve, or is it one of those things where you basically picked up the Peavey and you went, I like the sound of this. It's obviously solid state, which I think is always the best thing to go for with bass.
Look, I go solid state because it's just easier for bass. For guitar, wouldn't even consider it. And I can't carry around a 40-kilo SVP head. I could, but, getting old. The Peavey, I'd heard and played it a couple of times throughout my life, and just never really, I don't know, I did about 10 years as a guitarist solely, playing in a whole bunch of different bands. Then I moved to Melbourne, and then just got back into playing bass. So my sound kind of developed a transitioning out of being a guitarist back into a bass player. That's where I started out. So, my first bass rig was my old 100-watt Bayers, Australian-made Bayers valve head, and a 410. And it did perfectly fine for a year. And I happened to have a bass because I picked one up in the States while we were on tour there a couple of years ago. And, pedals, as far as that goes, I just had what I had. I had a couple of boosts, and I had a fuzz and I've got more delays on my board than's probably necessary, but it's got its moments.
Yes. When you said you moved from, or did you move from, say, regional Victoria into Melbourne or elsewhere?
I grew up in Cessnock, which is about 40 k's out of Newcastle.
Mm-hmm.
So I did up until my teens in Cessnock, teens through the late 20s in Newcastle, and then I moved down to Melbourne when I was about 28, I think.
Just for music?
12 years ago. Yeah, well, it was a good time for me to move out of Newcastle at that point for a couple of different reasons, but I was on tour down here with the previous band, and we were just sitting at a pub in Fitzroy, some weird little dodgy bar called, I think it was called Lambgo Bar, and we're just having a good time, and shit, why don't we move here? Like, what's keeping us in, at the time, Newcastle and Sydney, we were split up between those two cities. So it just always felt comfortable when we came down and played Melbourne. The crowds were always better. There was more going on. It was what we needed at the time. So, yeah, I've been here, 12 years? I don't know.
You're still a Knights fan, though?
Sorry?
You're still following the Knights?
Fan?
Yeah.
I don't have any kind of strong feelings towards NRL.
That's all right. You must have been the odd one out. In Cessnock,
we had the Johns brothers in Cessnock. They were like the heroes of the town, and I don't know. Back in the people that were into it at that time, when I was an impressionable teen, wasn't really into them. So I was kind of looking for other things. So footy and, at the time, footy and Guns N' Roses weren't my favourite thing. I've learnt to enjoy both of them. But yeah, I was kind of rebelling against what was the norm in Cessnock, and that was just a whole bunch of footy heads. Yeah, and that's cool.
Yeah.
In retrospect, that's fine. But at the time, I was looking for other things.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, again, I've long said Melbourne is the epicenter of live music in Australia. It tends to be the bedrock, doesn't it? The bigger bands have always sort of come out of Sydney. AC/DC or In Excess. I know they originally came from Perth, but they made their mark in Sydney. Midnight Oil, this sort of thing. But Silverchair too in Newcastle too, I suppose. God knows what happened to poor old Daniel Johns, given his very erratic appearance on Denton that time there. I still think he's one of the most talented frontmen that we ever produced. I'm talking about as Australian, but he's just lost his way. But I'll never forget reading an interview with him in Pedestrian TV or watching a video. Either way, it was on Pedestrian TV, and he said that he didn't want to lead his life, and the only thing he was ever known for was Silverchair. And I thought, you have no idea how hard people struggle to actually obtain even a 100th of what you take for granted with music.
Yeah, look, I don't know the guy, but I definitely feel for him. Newcastle's a tall poppy town, and when you were that young, who's giving you the guidance? Who's got the understanding of being thrown into the deep end at the age of 14, 15? Who knows how to navigate that? So
it's almost
I kind of feel like I feel like he's done probably pretty well, and hopefully he's sorted out whatever's preventing him from being creative. Because he's a great songwriter, great frontman.
Oh, just natural frontman. He's like Michael Hutchence. You watch both of them, completely different frontmen, but you watch both of them, it's like you were born to do this. There's nothing else in the world you're ever going to be good at. In terms of great at, I should say.
There's a quality in musicians, mostly, I guess we notice in frontmen, that they're captivating no matter what they're doing, and they could be doing nothing. But the way they're doing nothing on stage just makes them completely engaging. Now, I don't think I have that quality. I wish I did. I think we collectively might. But Daniel has it. Hutchins definitely had it.
Yeah, it's the star quality. Yeah. That's what it's called. I know what you're saying. Like, being a musician, I'm workmanlike when I get up there. I don't have that star quality, and I never really sort of aspired to have it, to be honest with you. Not that if I didn't have it natively, I wouldn't have minded, because God knows, it's a wonderful thing to get. But you know what I'm talking about. You're up there doing it.
Yeah,
you
I
sort
know
of
what you mean.
you just want to make your point and bring your music across to people. And if you can do that, it's a success.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Hey, just going back to the EP then. Sorry, you got a bunch of collaborators on here. So you've mentioned King Carrot from Death by Carrot. And elsewhere on the EP, you've got Diesel Dolman from one of the best named bands I've ever heard, Dune Eater. Jim Coley, I think his surname is Jimmy Coley, from A Gazillion Angry Mexicans. Yeah, another great one.
Yep.
And Georgie Cosson from Kitchen Witch. So are these mates of yours, or how did you pick people who you wanted on the EP?
These are a snapshot of the quality of this scene. The bands that we've played with and become friends with. We go to Adelaide, we try and play with Kitchen Witch. We've been on the road with Gazillion Angry Mexicans. We've done shows. We did a dual album launch with Dune Eater. We've played a bunch of shows with Death by Carrot. We unfortunately didn't get to finish that part of the tour before COVID kind of shut us down. We were supposed to go to Queensland and do a bunch of dates with them. They're just great examples of the quality of this scene. They're great songwriters and great performers in their own right, and they each brought different things to different songs. And we got to write them in different ways. So Jimmy from Mexicans lives around the corner. We got to do some face-to-face writing and got into my studio and, nutted it out as a song and as a story. And that came out with Babe Wolf. Now, that didn't start out anything like that. So the premise of the whole EP is that COVID hit and we'd already reworked a track from tourist season because we recorded 12 drum tracks but only put 7 on the album. The other 5 became this EP. So we had the songs there, and for whatever reasons, they didn't get finished for tourist season. And when COVID hit, we were like, well, let's just finish them and let's get other people in to help, because I'd struggled to finish the song from a lyrical and melodic point of view. So who do I call on? Well, damn, let's just pick who are we working with at the moment? Who are we vibing off? We knew the Kitchen Witch album was coming out. We had a good vibe about that. The Mexicans have been working on stuff. We've got another project going on with Dune Eater. It's just an amazing time to be around with those guys and creating music. Yeah. So the songs individually came together. Yeah, so KC basically took the music from Holy Fire. He didn't even listen to what I'd fumbled out with vocals and lyrics. He just wanted to have his own approach to it, which I respected, and then he just came back with this mega melody, and it reversed part of the song. Like he put a verse where I was putting choruses, and I went, oh man, of course, that just makes so much sense. And then we got to work on the harmonic content of it, and we tweak the lyrics and all that kind of stuff. So I found it a really, really cathartic process as far as the songwriter goes, because I'd previously gone through 12 months of writer's block.
Oh wow, okay.
And then came out of that to put together tourist season. Still had stuff left over from tourist season that just I couldn't finish. Yeah, so bringing them in was great. And now we look at it and we go, well, it sounds like Planet of the Apes with some favourite peoples.
Yep.
And maybe we'll do this again. So it's quite liberating when we're writing now, because if we're writing and it's like, well, maybe this isn't something that we're going to do for Planet of the Apes album 3, but maybe we'll keep it for Lagrange Point 2 or 3 or...
Yeah.
And... yeah.
Well, I can't wait to hear it. As I say, I've only heard Holy Fire from the song that Miller sent through, but when's it going to be released?
August 18, because we love our 8th, the 18th day of the 8th month, 21. Nice. There's also another mix of so Exit Planet we did with Diesel, and that was released for a fire appeal. Remember the fires back in early 2020 and late 2019? That song's actually on that already, so you can hear that already, and the other stuff will be out on the 18th.
Well, look forward to it, man. Yeah, it's I like what you guys have got going on yourselves and Dr. Colossus. Actually, I had a chat to John.
John is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're living through. I'm not one of those people, even though I'm 43. I'm not one of those people that thinks metal was better back in the day. I think it's better now. I've got to say, because I'm enjoying more bands now. I can tell you that.
Yeah. Cool.
There's and to your point there that you made about Australian music too. There's just so many killer Australian bands these days. I went to see that fucking, what was it called? That Australian music festival with all the bands from my youth. Oh God, it's not a Soundwave. What was it called? You know the one I'm talking about, though.
Wasn't one of like Day on the Green things with like Regurgitator and Tumbleweed and
it was that one. But I can't remember what it's called. But half of the bands pulled out. So of course because of COVID, what was going on with COVID. But it was up here at Sandstone Point, and it was freezing, which is near Bribie, and it was so cold. I reckon I got exposure that day because of the wind, man. But it was, I don't know. I love Regurgitator. I'm not shitting on any of these bands at all. So please, anybody listening, I'm not shitting on the bands at all. Spoken to Ben. Ben's a killer guy, you know. But let's get the new shit. Let's listen to what Planet of the Apes have got going on, and Dr. Colossus, and this sort of thing. You know, let's create new memories, even as adults. You know what I'm saying? Yeah,
for sure. Like, okay, couple of points in here. A lot of people that I meet at Planet of the Apes shows are into 90s Australian rock, and that whole broad 90s music that was happening in Australia. Which I think is helping now because the stoner and doom psych scene is still quite diverse. So, as was the 90s music scene. Anyway, that's point A. Oh, shit, I forgot the rest of it.
It sounded like it was going to be good, too.
But, yeah, one of my biggest kind of concerns of things that we could have done during COVID, because we're going to be looking back on this for quite some time ago. I probably should have got fitter. I probably should have done this. Probably should have learned how to play guitar. The Australian music scene had a great opportunity to go, cool, well, let's just become all-inclusive. Let's max out our Australian quota. And, you know, who's going to be touring first? Australian bands or international bands? So let's get in now, promote Australian music. Don't do a music month. Let's do it a music year. COVID 2021, 22. Let's see out the rest of this by increasing the Australian quota across the board so that we can create that scene, so we can create that vibe, and we can be doing not nostalgia shows, we can be doing full-on rock and roll festivals with Australian content. And maybe we'll get some international in. I kind of feel like that could have happened. Somebody, obviously not me, because I'm just an ideas man. I don't have enough to get up and go. But you know, somebody could have made that decision.
Yeah, you know, I do think Dicey's putting on some great stuff. I just haven't been, just with kids and stuff, I haven't been able to get out. Just, you know, working and all the usual stuff is what I'm saying. But to your point, if there's a little bit more of it, that's probably what we need. I would love to. This is what I mean. People they're very backward looking about things. Oh, it's better back in the day. It's like, well, we weren't around back in the day, in the late 70s and early 80s when, you know, Mondo Rock were playing and stuff. Like, I love Mondo Rock now, and I've played this stuff a million times. But, like, I can go and watch YouTube if I want the golden oldies experience. But I want to, like your point there, like these Dead of Winter festivals. But imagine if there was one every 2 weeks. And I don't know whether it's overkill. But getting people out of their living rooms and communicating again away from phones and
Yep.
forming bands at shows. This sort of stuff, like I remember I met a guy. I didn't join the band, but I met a guy at a Mr. Bungle show. I know it's an Australian band, but the point is I met him at a show and we got talking. It turned out he's a guitarist and I'm a bassist, and he invited me along to have a jam with him. When we did it, we just didn't have a lot in common musically, so it sort of didn't happen. But, you got to meet a dozen people like that before you find someone that, you get along very well, but also, too, you've got chemistry within a room, within a rehearsal room, and that's a good place to be able to do it rather than online. But we're a digital society these days. It's part of my bit of a lament, I suppose, that I've just sort of said there. But yeah, man, imagine that every fortnight.
Man, I get it. We've been lucky down here that we've been able to play a couple of shows this year, and playing's been great, and the crowds have been great. But also hanging out with other musos talking shit, that's been pretty good too. And I'm not saying I've started a new band, but we banter around a lot of ideas, and you can't get that out of music classifieds, and
no, that you can't. Yeah,
more music sounds good. Don't think it can be bad.
Very, very true, my man. So, mate, just to wrap things up, can you tell people whereabouts they can go, first and foremost, to purchase your shit, because that's very important, so to support you guys by parting with their hard-earned and receiving a product in return, and also your socials presence?
Yep. So the ethical consumption of our music can be done through Bandcamp. We have T-shirts and vinyl, and the album will be available to purchase through there digitally. We will be pressing it to vinyl. The lead time on that is quite long at the moment. It'll be out before the end of the year. And then it'll be out on all streaming services that you can possibly think of, as far as I can tell. iTunes, Spotify, Deezer, out of Europe. It's a lot easier to reach people that way these days. But yeah, if you don't want to just stream it, you can also buy it.
Yeah. Buying is best for underground bands. If you want to listen to, the golden oldies, as I said, by all means, Spotify, Apple Music and Deezer or whatever else there might be out there. But bands like yourself, I think, it's I don't look at it as charity at all. I just think it's nice to support you guys by way of buying a T-shirt, because you do have killer art too, by the way. Congratulations on that front. Yeah. And supporting you via, if you've got cassettes or vinyl or CDs, whatever it is that can sort of keep you guys going and keep you in business. I encourage everybody out there to do that.
We say the ethical consumption of music. We talk about Spotify is a great platform for finding music. But if you're into it, go and buy it.
Yeah.
Because nobody's making any money out of that stream. Even if you play it every day for a month, even if it's your favourite of songs, and you would gladly hand over your hard-earned cash to go see them at a festival or something like that.
Yeah, very true. Very true. Well, mate, killer chat. Thanks so much. There you have it. That conversation featured Sullo from Planet of the Apes. If you enjoyed that one, you can check out plenty more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com. I've got a new website coming hopefully soon. I don't know when it'll be ready, but today's date being Saturday the 17th of July 2021, it should be a few weeks out from now. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. I'd appreciate it if you could like, subscribe, share, and all that usual bullshit. In truth, it does help. I don't like saying it because it sounds like spam, but, we've got to try and beat these social media algorithms, or at least work within the fucking things and try to spread the word about conversations with people like Sullo and so many of the other leading lights in extreme metal, heavy metal, rock music, and beyond. Again, my name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast series. Thanks so much for tuning in.